Hello and welcome to this video where we're talking about the importance of having foundational study skills in place before trying to learn about revision. Now, the context of this is that when students to me in year 11 or year 13 at this kind of time, I'm recording this in February, it's often a bit of a rush and a bit of a struggle, and all they want to know about is revision techniques. Now, revision techniques are great, they're really important, but they are not the foundation of academic success. So, if you're wanting to learn revision techniques without having the foundational study skills in place, it's a bit like trying to build a house without building foundations. At the first sign of trouble, the house is going to go and topple over and you're not going to have a house anymore. And it's a bit like that with revision skills. If you don't have those foundational study skills in place before you start learning about revision, then you're really, really going to struggle. So in today's Facebook Live, we're going to talk about what the foundational study skills are, why they're so important, and how you can learn them. So if that sounds good, give this video a thumbs up and we will get on with covering the foundational study skills that are so important. So the first foundational study skill I want to talk to you about today is organisation. Now, organisation is so important because it covers the basics of just basically functioning as a student. So it's about planning your tasks and about filing and organising your resources. Now, often when students first come to me, they haven't got this in place, and they might be struggling because they're getting detentions, because they're not handing homework in, or because they don't have the right kind of kit with them. But recently in the Extraordinaries Club, we had a student who said in year 10, she wasn't in the club at this point, she'd made a whole load of revision notes, but she hadn't filed them, and when she came to use them in year 11, she couldn't find them. She'd lost them. They'd gone. And you can imagine how galling this was for her, because she didn't have the crucial revision notes that she'd invested time in making, and she had to do it all over again. So organisational skills are so important because they help save time and help you to keep on track with all the tasks that you have in place. And another example of this is making sure that you've got all your class notes in place as you go along through the courses. Now, there's been many a student who's come to revise and they're like, well, I haven't got any notes to revise from because they hadn't stuck worksheets in, or they hadn't made sure that their notes were complete as they went along. And it's not just that they didn't have the notes, it's that they didn't have that understanding that was underpinned by making sure that it was all there. So that lack of organisation was basically letting them down on two fronts. So organisation is crucial in supporting really effective revision. Okay, so that's the first foundational study skill, organisation. The second foundational study skill is motivation. Now, I believe that every student needs to have their own personal reason why they're studying for their exams. Now, it's all very well being told, well, everybody has to do it, you just have to get these grades, it's the thing that teenagers have to do. But actually, that's not very powerful when it doesn't speak to you and your own personal motivations and your own vision for your life. So you really need to come up with a motivation or link a thing that you want to do in your life with success in these exams. Now, when I was at school, my big motivation was getting into Cambridge, and when things felt tough or when things felt kind of way out of my reach, the reason that I dug deep and kept going and found solutions to the problems was because I wanted to keep that dream alive. I wanted to keep working towards that dream. Now, as I always say, Cambridge is not the be all, it shouldn't be everybody's goal. We're all different, we're all on different paths in life. But it's just so crucial that young people explore what it is that they think they might be working towards. And different powerful motivators work for different people. So I can remember one student very vividly last year who really wanted to get into a really competitive sixth form, and that's the goal that she was working towards. We've actually had somebody else this year in the club who's had a similar kind of goal, and she's actually achieved already being offered a place in this really exclusive sixth form. Other goals I've seen are things like wanting to train for medicine or dentistry, or one-to-one client I worked with a few years ago really wanted to study the criminology course at Leicester University. So she got her own personal thing that was important to her that she really, really wanted to work towards. And the reason that this is just so important is that it's your reason. It makes it personal. It brings it back to you when the going gets tough, and it does get tough. It gets tiring, it's demanding. You face problems, you face difficult content. If you're not doing it for yourself, it's very easy to throw it all up in the air and say, can't be bothered, can't do this. But if you've got your own personal reason for keeping battling on, then that's going to be so much more powerful. Okay, the third foundational study skill that I want to talk about is time management. Now, it's not really surprising when you think about it with young people that they don't really know how to manage their time. They don't know, they've never had that demand on their time to have to think really carefully about how they use their time and how they plan their time. So when GCSEs come along in particular, and to a certain extent A-levels as well, it's really quite a shock to the system to have to think carefully about what they don't do and what they do and how to manage the tasks that they have to do. Now, the reason it's important to crack this before you move on to revision is that you really need to have this kind of framework for how you organise your time and manage your time as you move into revision, because revision is basically just another layer on top of all the other kind of stuff that's demanded of you by the academic system. So you need to have that solid foundation in place. And what I find with the students that we work with is that when they have a framework in place for how they manage their time, and they understand the balance between homework and revision, and they understand how that balance changes over the course of their GCSEs or A-levels, they are a lot more confident about managing their time. They're a lot more confident about the choices they're making, about what they're prioritising and putting emphasis on in terms of whether that's homework or revision. And it just works so much better. So time management really is about structure. It's about creating this structure that is your strategy for how you manage your time. But then it's about these ongoing tactical choices about how you're using your time day in, day out, and where that focus and emphasis is lying. And, any student is going to really struggle with their revision skills if they haven't cracked their time management. I think another example that I would use around that is when I was doing my own GCSEs, I realised I needed to be doing a lot more work than I was doing. And at the time, all teenagers, and let me know in the comments if you recognise this, all teenagers were taking an hour out to watch Neighbours and Home and Away every evening. And that took an hour every single day. And I realised that if I stopped watching Neighbours and Home and Away, I'd get an extra hour to spend on my studies, and that would help to support my goal of getting the grades I needed to get into Cambridge. So I stopped watching Neighbours and Home and Away, and I used that time for studying. And that was a really conscious decision about how I used my time. Okay, the next foundational study skill, it's not just about studying, but it's a skill for life really, and that is mindset. So many students don't have a growth mindset, and this is because they might have experienced repeated failures in their academic life that has made them think that they are not a good student or they have no potential in terms of their academic studies. They may also have had constant messages about the level at which they're working. Like they may have had these reinforced messages that this is the grade that you are worth, and so they kind of confine themselves to that grade and they don't allow their ambition to grow beyond that. Or on the converse side of that, there are students who have repeatedly been told that they're clever, that they're talented, that they're very high ability, and they lapse into this false sense of security around their ability. And this matters because when the going gets tough, both sets of students are inclined to go like back off, because they don't have that innate belief that the academic process is about learning, not just about learning stuff, but learning as in developing yourself and your capabilities and your skills. And it's this resilient growth mindset that students really need to keep on striving for those goals that they've set in terms of motivation, to keep on track with their time management and their organisation. So it's so helpful for students to become conscious and aware of where their mindset typically goes. Is it a fixed mindset that holds them back, or is it a growth mindset that helps them develop, learn and grow as they go along? And that awareness is often all it takes to change and step that up a level. But some students do need that gentle prodding all the time to say, okay, where's the opportunity to learn? Where's the opportunity to grow? All the time as they go through their studies. Okay, the last foundational study skill that I want to talk about is habits. Now, I talk all the time about how important consistency is in terms of academic achievement, and consistency is basically gained through forming good study habits and like getting rid of the bad study habits. So here we're talking about, getting rid of habits like having your phone with you while you're studying, or like leaving the door open so your dog or your little sister can come in at any point and distract you, or good study habits like doing 5 minutes of revision every day. These things, when you get them right, they form a foundation for that revision that happens at the end of the academic year, so that basically it's not as tough, it's not as stressful, it's not as demanding, because you're not battling with your brain, because your brain is saying, I need my phone next to me, I don't feel safe without my phone, because you've established that good habit of having it somewhere else, or because you've done that 5 minutes of revision every day on a consistent basis. You have that massive foundation of all that good work that you've done going along, learning all the things that you've learned. So there's just less to learn in that kind of final revision phase. So having these habits in place and achieving this kind of consistency in your approach to learning really helps to have a more balanced and healthy approach in the final build up to exams, which is better for everybody, students and parents alike, because everybody's getting a better night's sleep, everybody's more confident about what's coming ahead, and it's just nicer and better for everybody. So if you agree with me that these 5 foundational study habits that we've been talking about today are important, please let me know in the chat. Give me a yes if you think they're important. Just to run over them again, they are organisation, motivation, time management, mindset, and habits. So this is the foundation, like the first 5 modules in the Extraordinaries Club, which is my online hub for families in the exam years, where I teach these study skills. The first 5 modules are these 5 things: organisation, motivation, time management, mindset, and habits. And that's for a really, really good reason because, well, I've just explained it all in this video, but they underpin revision techniques. And it's only when we've got these things in place that we move on to revision techniques, because people do fall over when they don't have these foundational pieces in place first. So if you've got a child in year 11 or year 13 and you're watching this live when it's broadcast or published in February, don't worry. In the club, we also have a quick start version of the modules, which gives you a really whistle-stop tour of these foundational things. Or because I'm doing this in half term, maybe you can make the time, like it would take about 5 hours to work through these things in the club right now, and you would have those in place for the coming months as you work towards the exams. So you can find out more about all of that in the Extraordinaries Club, which you can find out more about at theextraordinariesclub.com. If you would also like some other help as a parent, I've got a special free download that is called 7 Top Tips for Parents to help your child reach their academic potential. And I've put a link for that in the description above or below this video, depending on where you're watching it. So if you've found this video helpful and interesting, and you agree with me that these foundational study skills are so important for students before they move on to learning how to revise effectively, give this video a thumbs up. Let me know in the comments what your key takeaways are, and I'd like to thank you so much for watching. Take care and have a good day.